Buenos dias. First, I would like to extend to all of you a warm and heartfelt greetings and thank you from the Free Methodist Church in Mexico City and from the Free Methodist Church in the town of Apizaco, from Pastor Hector, his wife Irene, and their children Danny and Sarah, and from Gary and Jan Allen, who are retired Free Methodist missionaries who lived and served in Mexico City for 12 years, who visited our church last September, and who rendezvoused with us again this year and assisted us during our time there again. I would also like to thank this congregation for the privilege that you have given me of leading another team to Mexico City. And thank you as well for your support, both prayerful and financial. We cannot do what we do on a missions trip unless we have a whole lot of you people back here equipping, supporting, and praying for us. So thank you. And we certainly needed your prayers again this year as 6 out of 10 team members became sick with a viral respiratory infection. On the other end in Mexico City, 3 out of 4 of the pastor's family were sick with the same thing. Their son Danny already had it, so it was on that end when we got there. And Gary Allen became sick as well. So that's 10 out of 16 people sick. However, it did not keep us from our ministry or from our work projects. These people are troopers, and what a great team. Can I give them a round of applause? They worked to the best of their abilities throughout the week, despite how they were feeling. On behalf of the team, I'd like to thank Mike Parrington for the video that you just saw a few minutes ago. And I'd like to thank Mike Peart for getting us to Toronto, and to Todd and Pilar for getting us safely home from Toronto again. In the video, you see different churches reflected there. The one that we stay at, Casa de Paz, is actually a very poor church. The facilities look nice, but please know that all of that has been done through donations and volunteers. There's another church in Mexico City, a little wealthier, in a gated community. That's where you saw the balloons and the baby dedication happening. And then the little church in Apizaco is quite poor. They just moved to a new facility. They don't have their own facility or property yet. And again, it's things are a little more desperate there. Who has not heard of Visa Mexico report before? 2 or 3. Okay, very quickly, for those of you who may not have heard a Mexico City report before, Mexico City has a population of just over 20 million people. It's a big city. There's only just over 30 million in all of Canada. It sits on a plateau surrounded by mountains, which you can never see for the air pollution most of the time. It's at an elevation of 2,700 meters above sea level. So when you add that elevation, the thinner air, to a respiratory infection, and then add the fact that Mexico City is listed in the top 10 cities in the world with the worst air quality, it's not fun being sick down there. The predominant religion of the country is Roman Catholicism, and the Protestant faith is viewed as a cult. Converting can mean and often does result in people being ostracized by their family and their friends sometimes. Visa Mexico City 216 was an ambitious and ministry-filled week that was a blessing to the church in Mexico and to each of us, and I hope that all of you here today will share in that blessing as the different team members come to share their experiences. Well, you've seen on the video some of the things we did and places we went, and I'm going to ask the team members to come and to share with you.
Well, I'm here for 4 times in a row. Okay, you better.
Okay, I'm gonna go. This was my first trip, and it was very rewarding. And I'm going to talk about, we went to a small community there in Tarascus, and they're carpenters by trade, but they were forced out of their homes because of the cartel, and the cartel was wanting to take money from them, and they just don't have enough money to give. So They're right out on the street in Mexico City, and they have tents. Like, they just live in little tents, and they work and live right in their homes, because they sleep up, it's like a little rafter, and they even cook on a little open fire. And the work they do is beautiful. We went around and looked. But the children there, they're just so excited when you come. And they're willing, like even coloring. I couldn't get over, because, I mean, with our children, you know, they do, but after 10 minutes they're bored, right? These guys are just so excited. They'll color, and they play with the Play-Doh, and even though we can't communicate, like I don't know Spanish, we seemed to get along, and we were able to do, and they were just so happy. So it was a good experience. And they're very loving. Like, they just hug you all the time. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a humbling experience to see what other people go through. And I think it was necessary for me to go through that. And I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity, and that's from you guys. So thank you. I also enjoyed my trips on the bus. And it was, Terrascus is in the area, so that's it was fun going, like, so there was a lot of fun times. And Teresa certainly was our comic relief, so I thoroughly enjoyed my time when I was there.
Okay, I guess I can talk now. So I guess God always wanted me to go, because the first trip, he made me go. Oh, okay, wait. Okay. This year I really got close to them, like really close. They're really a family to me, really family. Okay, I'll try. Okay, Holly and her husband are outside, and this little girl is playing in a mud puddle. A mud puddle. Can you imagine our kids doing? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Abby. Okay. And Holly's getting excited about this kid in the puddles. Of course, she's got these lovely leotards on, and she's going in the mud and everything. And her mom just casually comes out and takes the leotards off and just says, "Go play in the mud puddle." To me, that's unbelievable, because our kids, my grandson has to be on the internet and I call that the evil machine. But to get to this, like I could see when we got on our clown costume and walked in, all the ladies looked at us like they were even excited about us being in our clown costumes. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then, of course, Holly says, "Come on, we're going to do a puppet show." And I said, "Where, Holly?" "Oh, in the toilet." And I'm going, okay, there's a toilet here, and then there's, like a curtain over, and I'm going, "Holly, like the toilet's this small. Me and you are going to get in there and do a puppet show." She said, "Yes, we are." And I said, "Okay, I guess this is what God wants us to do." I'm not sure this is what we really want to do, but we got back there and and it was just amazing. Like, they really liked it. And there was one boy he really knew a lot of English. And he really helped the kids, which, to make these little sandals, and he really helped them, and he helped us kind of translate to them, which I felt really close. But I have seen these children before, and there was one girl last year. She was young, and her sister was young, and she already had a baby. And this one, I said to her, I saw her this year too, and I said, "Do you have any babies?" "No way." And my heart was I was so happy, because she was only 15, and she had her boyfriend there, but she said, "No babies." And I thought, yeah, okay, at 15, let's not. And her self-esteem was so good there, because some of the women there, their self-esteem isn't that great. They have 5 kids, and usually they don't even have a husband. Or if they do, he's in and out, and it just made me feel good that I found one girl that she really wasn't having a baby at 15. It really touched my heart. And then one thing, the kids around the computer and looking at the video, they were kind of really excited. Boy, do they ever like candy. Whoa, I thought I liked candy. And I thought one thing that was kind of neat, the little girl, like she just made these little shoes out of duct tape, and she was walking around outside in them. And I thought, none of our kids would. We've got to have the designer shoes. And I thought it was so neat because she was wearing them and she was so proud of them. And one of the girls we saw last year, she said that she hated the pollution and she wanted to better herself. And her mother and her family was really, really together. And I'm really hoping and praying that she does more than just have 5 babies. Like, I know children are wonderful. I'm not saying they're not wonderful. But to have a career, a woman can have a career and have a family too. So that's all.
So our task was to follow up on the children's ministry report. And so we did children's ministry in quite a few different places and different formats. And so just to elaborate a little bit on the toilet experience, we had taken the puppets with us, and the location where they are is a garage, and it's actually a step up from where they had been worshiping together before, because it does have this very small room off of it with a toilet with a curtain in front of it. And if you've seen the bathroom facilities at the location previously, this was like 5-star. So we kind of decided who is going to the small room, who's going to the big room. Betty's doing ladies' ministry. We've got children's ministry going on. And this attests to when you're doing missions, you just go with the flow, and who knows what's going to transpire, because we ended up, unbeknownst to Rob, doing a youth program that day as well. And so we've got 2 people to translate, 3 groups going on, all at the same time. And so it was whoever's the smallest group goes to the small room. So I'm like, there's really not anywhere to put up the puppet curtain in here. That's fine. We just won't do puppets. And the pastor's son, I would say he's probably in his 30s, 40s, comes in and says, "Are you going to do the puppets?" I'm like, okay, well, obviously that's important, so we'll do the puppets. And we ended up doing the puppets behind this curtain out of the bathroom. And the toilet flushes just by dumping water into it, and they hadn't had water. So it was a little brown, and I'm just praying that we don't drop the puppet into the toilet. And I turned around, and Rob's supposed to be a clown for us. And I said, "Where's Rob?" "Oh, he's with the teens somewhere." So Eric, bless his heart, gets thrown into a wig and a clown suit and queued up very quickly. And you go with however the Spirit leads at the moment. And so I just want to share with you very quickly about 3 people connected to children's ministry that have kind of stood out. Something that Betty didn't mention is that this marks 10 years of a partnership and a relationship with the church in Mexico City. We have gone 8 times over the past 10 years, and so there's definitely an ongoing relationship there. And so Victoria is a 10-year-old little girl, and it's been really neat to see her starting to take leadership in the church. We were left without a translator a lot of times with the children's group, and so it was, "Victoria, can you read this for us in Spanish or whatnot?" And just really blessed to see. And she actually led the service the one night, didn't she? Yes, so she did, supervised their testimony time, did the offering announcements and whatnot. And so it's just really neat to see God using that little girl in a really powerful and special way. And the second one I would like to share with you is actually their cousins, I believe, Rosa and Katerina. And they are part of a family of about 20 people that live just next to the church. They are from the Mayan group, and so they speak an ethnic language. They don't speak Spanish, and Pastor Hector and Irene have been working with them to teach them English. They don't go to school, so they're just kind of wandering the streets a lot of the time. And the last night we had service, and the kids were there for a little bit, and then they left, and they didn't get their gift that we had for them, and come to find out later that the two girls were at work. And I asked on our way to the airport the next day, what would a 10-year-old girl be working at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night? And they washed dishes at a restaurant to earn income for their family. And so again, just a demonstration of what we take for granted here in terms of our kids and their freedom and the privilege that they have to be kids, as much as we lament the loss of childhood at an earlier age. And thirdly, a young woman whose name is Amanda. And in Mexico City, the church definitely relies on the leadership of the pastor and his wife. There's not a lot of lay people that are stepping up to ministry, especially in the area of children's ministry, but I had the privilege of sitting in on Amanda's lesson that she did with the children both Sunday mornings, and just very enthusiastic, and so excited to see what God wants to do in the area of children and youth ministry in the church in Mexico City. And another opportunity that Rob and I had this trip, and maybe one of my favorite ones, as much as we didn't really feel equipped or prepared or experts in the matter, we did a marriage workshop on the Saturday night when we first got there, with all of our wealth of 4 years of married experience. But it was just a really special time, particularly at the end of the evening. They had 2 chairs just in the center of the room, and they just had each couple come as they were led and laid hands on each couple. And so to be able to pray for them and to have them pray for us, just a really special and powerful moment to, just pray for one another and our marriages and families was probably one of the highlights of the trip for me this time. Yep. Over to you.
So I was scheduled to go down and do an addictions workshop with parents, and originally thought it was just for men. So as I prepared before I left, I reviewed the movie Courageous, and I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Courageous, but all about, becoming men of God, and that's kind of the theme that I went down with to get down there to find out, oh, women are coming too. So, all right, back, and we revamped it all, which was really good. We had a full house. I can't remember how many people, but definitely over 20 people there, and just some really good conversation. Definitely Bible-filled, lots of quotes and readings from the Bible, just about how to be a family. So looking at all different characteristics, not only of men and women, and the partnership that goes along with being family, because as Teresa and Leanne spoke about, men come and go down there, and divorce is viewed very negatively, so men just leave. And the family unit just needs a lot of work down there. So that's what we talked about specifically, was that idea to communicate and to parent together and to raise godly kids in godly homes, which was a really good opportunity. And then the following night we did, prepared a lesson to talk about addictions and the valley of dry bones, and getting stuck into that valley and not seeing hope, and only 5 people showed up, and they were church kids. So it's like, all right, God, what are we doing here? Because these kids don't need to hear about the valley of dry bones. And so, but it was really good with a smaller group, just being able to have some of those intimate conversations with, and be able to, just see where they're at. What are some of the struggles that they personally are facing in school? So that just opened up a whole different conversation, which was really good. And then, as mentioned too, in Apizaco, prepared to do a clown skit, and all of a sudden getting pulled out to do a youth program without a translator. So it was definitely interesting. God was definitely working. And part of that group too, you go in with kind of some ideas that you have in your head. And we had one person who had struggled for, I think, 8 years with crystal meth. and has come out of that and has been working to, well, he's well into his recovery and was able to share his own personal testimony to a whole bunch of other youth and just say, this is where I was, these are the scars that I have. And he had scars from attempted suicide and cutting and different aspects that go along with addiction and mental health issues, and was just able to, just to speak into the lives of the people there, which was really, really encouraging. So when you go in Mexico, you can prepare for one thing, but you never know what you're going to get, and you completely rely on God just to give you the words, because sometimes you don't know or you don't have them, and it's just interesting to see how he works and how he gives those words to the other people.
Pat graciously thought I needed a poncho to show off the colors of the Mexican culture. I'm here to talk to you about two thoughts. Sunday I preached twice, and Monday evening we had a Bible study. And as a team prepares to go on a mission trip, we often have our own thoughts of just what exactly are we going to do, what are we going to accomplish, and will we make any difference in the lives of the people we contact with? That is always a question when you prepare, and it's so easy to plan and to get the support from your church and to do everything. But then in the back of your thoughts is the main reason is because God is working in the lives of the missions, working in the lives of the church, and also working in the lives of the people we go to work with. As you heard, there was a number of us that were sick when we arrived. It seems kind of funny. It's all right to get sick at the end of the trip because you're coming home, but when you're sick the second day that you get there, you kind of question, why did this happen? Well, it's a pretty straightforward answer. Satan wanted to deter and to stop the children's program. He wanted to stop the studies that Rob did with young people and kids and the families, and marriage lessons, and the work that we had to do in the complex itself. It was plain and simple. The evil one did not want us there. And so, as we had our different assignments, and as we came through those things, the Lord gave us strength to carry on and to do it. And so the one point I like to bring out is the Monday evening we had a Bible study. And the Lord, for some reason, he got me to talk of the topic of faith in that Bible study. I spoke, what is real faith, and the foundations of real faith, and why do we believe, and the lack of faith in this world today, and how to build faith. Those were the 5 topics that we talked about. And the men from the missions team were there, and there was 2 other men that came that evening. One was from the church. Another man, he just walked in on his own for some reason. So you think and you wonder, is it God's timing, God's plan? And so we did the Bible study. And this young man named William, his life was in a just complete mess. And so we talked after the study, and he asked questions, and we talked more, and he asked more questions. And the Lord worked in his heart. And the only question that I asked him after that, would you like to accept Christ? With tears flowing down his face, we prayed through the translator, and he accepted Christ. Everything is worth it. On certain points, we tend to get ahead of ourselves, and we think that we are doing the planning and we are doing the work. It's the same as the Israelites when they were brought out of Egypt. And the Lord had some words for them. In all their rebellion and all their frustrations and their sin and their pride, the Lord was with them. He never left them. In some verses in Deuteronomy, the Lord your God, he's going before you. He will fight for you, as he did for you in Egypt. Before your very eyes, he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Be assured today that the Lord your God is the one who goes across ahead of you like a devouring fire. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you're going to go and take possession of this land, the Lord said, but on account of the wickedness that he sees. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For he says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. There's just some things that we cannot do ourselves. We might think that we're capable. But on this last note, I've learned that it is God's timing. It's his calling. And it's his work. And he includes us by his grace. And so we can give praise to the Lord. For this congregation was part of the missions trip that heavens opened up. And somebody was called home to be a child of the Father and to say that you are my son and I will never leave you or forsake you once you've asked me into my life. Thank you.
Before Jim comes here, I'd like to give a big thank you to Betty. You don't know how much work she does. And she's up in the morning making breakfast. And, yeah. Thank you, Betty.
So me and Eric, well, all of us worked at the parsonage repair. You saw some of the wood, the termite damage there. they don't use a lot of wood, so even getting materials down there is very difficult. And of course, you have to treat it with insecticide to keep the new wood from being attacked by the termites and painted it. And so we got wood, and then we got some screws because what we were nailing to wasn't always the most solid either. And then we couldn't find bits to drive the screws with, so and it was just
Finally, the last day you found.
yeah. The last day at the grocery store, we found found the right bits that would have made our whole life a lot easier. But anyways, we got it put together, and in the end, it looked.
There was a big problem too because there was holes around and rats would come into the house, so we had to mix up cement and fill all the bottom parts. So it was,
That's the pictures you saw of the cement. So.
yeah.
And it was Len's idea to do the board and batten, and it worked really well.
It worked well, yeah.
Very well. So.
There's another thing I would like to do. I had a real fantastic experience. The pastor's son one morning took us, there's a mountain behind the church, and actually Pastor Hector drove us halfway up, and then we walked all the way to the top to see the sunrise. There was Teresa, Damien, myself, and the pastor's son. And it was something beautiful. It's hard to get up there because, of course, you get to the top of the mountain, then you see kind of a valley, and then you see the big mountains behind. And one of them is a volcano. You could see actually smoke coming out of it. And then the big mountain in the middle, all of a sudden the sun started coming up, and it was so beautiful to see the big red sun coming slowly up, and oh, it was really amazing. Thank you.
Hello. So this was my first time going on a missions trip. I had absolutely no idea what to expect going in, and my expectations were exceeded. So it was a really interesting experience for me because for all of the things that I've done to help out with the church, it's mostly been VBS and Circle of Friends and helping out at Zion Hill. So it's all been helping out in places where people are not really as much in poverty, and you're going in and you're just kind of working with people that you've seen before and people that you can interact with and build relationships with really easily. And that's not something that you get when you go to a foreign country and you don't speak a word of the language aside from adios. And of course, the entire experience of the trip was a little bit sullied when I got sick, but really it didn't affect me too much because even though I was 2 countries away from my actual family, I felt like I still had people watching over me. And Betty especially, she was like my second mom. I think at one point you actually told me to call you Mom. And even though I was the youngest person to go on the trip, and I've never been there before, and most of the people that I was with, I haven't really worked too much with before, or even at all with before, I still felt really welcome and cared for, and I felt like I fit in, even though I was very new to the place. One thing that I noticed when we were going was that it's very easy to get caught up in the thought of, we're going to go, we're going to help them, and then it kind of gets carried away to, we're going to solve all their problems, and maybe by the time we're back next year, there won't be any problems, and we can just go and hang out with them. Of course, it doesn't work out like that. It's a lot of, I have notes here. I saw something online saying that when you go on a missions trip, they don't need short-term heroes, they need long-term partners. And that's something that I'm really seeing with the group because, like Holly said, it's been 10 years now. And you guys go in and you see the people that you've been seeing these past years and you keep helping them and you keep doing things for them. And it's not that we get it all done the first time we're there, but every year there's more that we can do and the work is never done. And so that's something that I really wasn't expecting to see. And yeah, it was a really good experience. I would definitely do it again.
it's really a mum to everybody on the trip because we have to have these on our luggage.
You can keep it for next time.
You got to laugh at me sitting in a doorway at the market. Well, that was in the church, like the little door over there at the church. No, I didn't. I was so sick that day. I thought, if I sit in the sun, maybe you'll just take it away. Damien tells me that on the way home that I was talking, and all of a sudden I wasn't talking. He said, you were out of it, and I was out. Anyway, we painted in the garage, and it's like really thick cottage cheese, and you have to go around like that. Well, there was 4 or 5 of us did the long wall, so the next day I had to do the short wall. Well, you saw me laying down. I was sick, but I was painting. It took me almost all day, and as far as I could go up, and then Jim finished it for me. And then we went to the sanctuary, and another day I didn't feel good. Anyway, Len says to me, here, you can paint the top. So here I am. Hardly lift my arms, but I'm painting up and near the top. And then he was painting in the middle, and there was Eric at the bottom. But anyway, we did get it painted, and Len finished the part that we didn't do. And I want to let you know that those people are special. Even the little wee kids, they have to give you a hug, they have to give you a kiss. And they are very appreciative of everything that we do. And everybody should go on a mission trip. They can cry then.
Again, I had the pleasure this year of working and sharing with the ladies while I was there. This year we talked about our feet, our walk, and what kind of spiritual shoes we wear. Do we wear slip-on shoes and slip on our Christianity only on Sundays? Or do we wear high heels and lift up and elevate and encourage others? You get the idea. I took along a pair of flip-flop sandals for each lady, and we embellished them with bling. And I was able to share my talk and craft with the ladies, not only at the church in Mexico City, but at the church in the town of Apizaco as well. As I reflected on Mexico City 2:16, God led me to a verse in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 10 and 11, where Paul is talking about sowing generously. Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Through us, your team, your generosity, this congregation, resulted in thanksgiving to God. We are a blessed church, blessed with the resources that God has given us to invest for Him. In this church, in this tiny little church, over 4,000 kilometers away, that is sitting in the middle of a city of 20 million people. I believe we are blessed because we are generous. At the end of our 10 days in Mexico City, we had some of our funding left over this year. Our projects were not as costly as expected, and so those extra funds were left with Pastor Hector and Gary Allen, and together they worked out and applied those funds to their church's ministry budget for the next year. Now, when I talk about a ministry budget, I'm not talking about the kind of ministry budget we have in our churches here in Canada or anywhere in North America. This church has meager funds to not only pay their pastor, but also to run their programs and their outreach. This extra funding that first God planned for, He always knows how much we need to take. I don't. I get guesstimates and estimates from Mexico, and as Jim shares, you never know what you're going to find or how much you're going to pay. So we raise what we can. God knows how much we need. So first, God planned for it. Second, you provided it out of the generosity of your hearts. And together, that has allowed this financially struggling little church to actually have funds to work with to run their programs. Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. May you be encouraged and blessed for the obedience and for the generosity of your hearts. Thank you from all your brothers and sisters in Mexico City, and thank you from this team for equipping and for supporting and for praying for us. Thank you.
Well, members of the team, on behalf of the congregation, thank you so much. First of all, for being willing to go. Secondly, for being willing to serve while you were there. And thirdly, for coming this morning and sharing with us the way you have. You have inspired us, you have encouraged us, and we want to thank you.